Hey, today on the Beard and Bourbon Wood Shop, I'm going to make a table that goes behind our couch in our living room, so stick around and see how I do it. Okay, so I really didn't have any plans that I was following for this, so I went ahead and sketched this up just so I could share with y'all kind of my thought process here. So I've got the tabletop and one leg that's going to be visible. Everything else is going to be kind of hidden behind the couch, so I'm not too concerned about that. So I went with 3/4 inch birch plywood for the legs you're not going to see and the bracing that I've got here. Basically, I'm going to have like four braces that hold the legs on to keep everything from racking. So, pretty simple design. So in keeping with simplicity, I didn't want to drive all over Creation to get some hardwood. So I think the nearest place for me to go get hardwood is either Woodcraft, which is about a half an hour away, or a lumber yard, which is an hour away. So I just went to Lowe's, picked up some red oak, and here I am kind of taking some measurements. I've got a couple 1x6s that I picked up, and I'm just going to cut the 8 footer just a couple inches off of that for the length of the table. I got a 6 footer for the leg. I ended up cutting off quite a bit of that, so I had a lot left over, which is fine. So with the leg, I didn't want it a full 5.5 inches wide. I wanted it cut down to 5 inches. So here I am just kind of taking some measurements, making a line on that board so I can take it to the table saw to rip. The other board I left, that was for the top. I kind of left that alone. I wanted that to full 5.5 inches. Okay, so instead of picking up a 4x8 sheet of plywood, I just went with a 2x4 sheet. A lot easier to deal with in my small shop. Trying to maneuver around a 4x8 sheet of plywood is kind of nightmarish, really. So this is just a piece of 3/4 inch birch plywood that I picked up. Off camera, I went ahead and cut the center and the far end leg out. And then I'm taking measurements here. I'm going to basically cut four triangles out of this piece to use as the braces. So I'm just kind of laying that out right now on my table saw to get ready to cut those out. Okay, so here I am just cross-cutting that piece to get my two squares that I'm going to cut the triangles out of. And I've set my miter gauge at an angle. I don't remember what angle that ended up being. It wasn't a perfect 45, but that allowed me to get those braces cut out on there. Okay, so I got all my pieces cut. I'll save you from staring at a bunch of sanding for the next 5 minutes or whatever it was, but some reason I lost audio on this. I'm not sure what happened when I recorded all the film, but it didn't matter. So I had a general ripping blade on my table saw, so I had a lot of tear out on this plywood. So I'm just sanding all those edges on all these pieces, just cleaning everything up, breaking the edges a little bit on the oak boards, and just getting ready for the next step on this. So. Alright, so it's been several days since I've been out in my shop working on this project. Southwestern Ohio just got hit with some severe cold weather and lots of snow and ice and nastiness, so it was just too cold in my shop to come out and work for a couple days. Even with two heaters out there, I couldn't really get it above freezing, so kind of sat on this for a little bit, did some work indoors, but now I'm back at it. So I've got everything sanded. I took my miter saw off my temporary little workstation I've got here, so I can have a bigger work area. And what I'm doing here is marking out the hole in the center leg for pass through for the plug. I'm putting in a power strip on the top of this, so I wasn't sure like where the leg is and where that's going to be in relationship to the plug on the wall. So I decided to go ahead and cut a little pass through hole in this thing. Just to run the extension cord through for the power strip when I get that installed. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just drilling some holes with a Forstner bit to get started with my jigsaw. This is where one of those cordless saws would be awfully handy. Alright, so just for sanity's sake, I just double checked to make sure all my legs are the same length, and luckily I got all my cuts right, so yay. So now I'm getting ready to get my pocket hole jig out and start cutting some, or drilling some pocket hole screws in this thing. So I've just got a real basic Kreg pocket hole jig that I've had for a long time. I've got a little face clamp here that I'm clamping onto the wood, clamping my board down to my workstation, and apparently I got a really bad camera view here, but I'm drilling those pocket hole screws right now in that center leg. And then this is the end leg where I'm drilling those pocket hole screws in for the leg that's going to be up against the wall. It's going to be hidden. And there you can see the jig that I'm using. I've had that thing for probably 20 years. Alright, so at this point I've got pocket hole screws drilled in both the plywood legs for both the end and the center. Now I'm working on the joinery for the oak leg, the leg that's going to be exposed to the room. I thought about just keeping it simple and going with pocket hole screws. I also thought about using dowels. I've got all the bracing, so I don't think I need to go do anything real fancy. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it simple and just go with some pocket hole screws. I've got the fine threaded screws for hardwood, so shouldn't have any blowout or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the pocket hole screws on these braces, and then go ahead and do the pocket hole screws on this oak leg. And then what I've got to do is cut out the hole for the power strip that I'm gonna have in here. I just got that in the mail the other day, and then we should be good to go. So let's go. I just wanted to touch base on what I'm doing to grow my business, grow this channel, and all that good stuff. You know what I talked about in my first video. So the response for my first video was surprising. Really, I honestly didn't expect anybody to see it, and I got quite a bit of response from it. Quite a few, quite a bit of views, a lot of good positive feedback, and it was really awesome to see that. Just first video, just it's not great. It's not going to be great. In 6 months you're going to look at it and be like, ah, that's disgusting. But I got a lot of good feedback from it, and that was really encouraging for me. And it's really helped me dive into the second video. And while I was frozen into my house, couldn't get out to my shop for a few days, I actually dove into video editing and learned some better techniques for editing videos, and I learned how to do voiceovers, which is cool. And just really kind of dove into that. I did a lot of research on how to promote YouTube channels and other things, and pushing social media. I've never really been into social media at all. I just haven't been a fan of it, and so now starting this business, I'm kind of having to get into that, and so this is a whole new world for me, and it's kind of exciting. I'm learning a lot, and it's a challenge that I've never had to face before, and it's just I'm just really kind of diving into it and learning a lot every single day, and it's been a neat experience. So. Yeah, there's a lot of good resources out there online, and just keep trying. I decided to use a template and to be able to trace the opening that I needed in this wood, just to make sure I was as accurate as I could be. There wasn't a good way to lay this thing down on the board and trace it or anything like that because the plug was coming out of the back and all that stuff, and I was just worried about it being too big. I had a little bit of a lip on the sides, and I wasn't too concerned, but I just didn't want to take any chances. So I just went ahead and I took the instructions, because who needs instructions with a power strip, and turned them into a template, traced it on there, and got that all lined up. And here I am again with the Forstner bit, drilling some holes in this wood so I can go ahead and get my jigsaw in there and start cutting out this hole for the power strip. Okay, so off camera, I went ahead and cut the hole out for the power strip there. Got everything cleaned up, and I put a 1/8 inch round over bit on all the edges, and on the top that's going to be right next to the couch where I guess your arm would sit. I used a 1/8 inch, no, I used a 1/4 inch round over bit on that, just to give it a little softer profile there. And here I'm just prepping my sander. I'm just going to get this sanded down to 180. And get it all nice and smooth and ready to go, and then we'll start getting everything assembled. Since the wood's already pre-sanded, I didn't have a lot to do. I just wanted to go ahead and hit this where I've cut the hole for the power strip, or hit it with a router. Once I hit everything with the random orbital sander, I always like to hand sand everything for a final sanding. So that's what I'm doing here, is just kind of hitting everything with 180, making sure all the edges are smoothed out, and all my router edges are smooth. There's no chips or anything like that. Making sure the holes that I cut out are smoothed out as well as I could. And of course, right when I get done sanding, my dust extractor hose falls off my sander. So anyway, getting ready to start assembly here. So the table's upside down at the moment. I'm going to set the leg on it and get some corner clamps out and get this thing ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to start working on assembly here. I've got a right angle clamp here ready to go. My leg's right over here. I'm not going to use, I drilled this for pocket hole screws. I'm not sure I'm going to use pocket hole screws. I think I'm just going to go ahead and glue it and then use the braces to hold this on, because I'm worried about pocket hole screws, the way I drilled it, busting out the edge of this, since they're going kind of at an angle this way. You don't really want to do that. I should have done it a different way, but because the board is going to be sitting on top of this, there's that slight risk of it busting through the top, and I just really don't want to worry about splitting that. I could always make another leg. I've got another board for it, but I don't have another 8-foot piece to make the top, so I want to be careful with that. So I think just a butt joint on here with some glue with the bracing should have everything good to go. So let's go ahead and get that up. So what I'm using today, usually I use Titebond 3, but since I'm going to be staining these a little bit darker, I wanted to use a dark glue. I picked up a bottle of this, as you can see it, Boss Dog, their brown glue. Um, give that a shot. I've never used it before, but heard a lot of good things about it. So we're going to give that a shot and see how that turns out. So here we go. these clamps I'm using here, I just picked them up on Amazon the other day. Came in a 4-pack. They weren't overly expensive, but they're real handy for gluing up boxes or anything with a 90-degree corner. Or bar clamps, just to put some downward pressure on that butt joint. So, and then we'll just let that sit there for a little bit. So now I'm measuring for where I want to put my center leg. And it's going to go in the same plane as the end leg there. And then we'll use braces on both sides to keep it stable. Okay, so I've got my center leg on here, clamped down, and I've got some 1 1/4 inch fine thread pocket hole screws that I picked up. This clamp I'm using is really nice. I just picked that up too when I picked up the screws. I don't know why I've never had one before. I've had this pocket hole jig for a while, and for some reason I've never had one of these clamps, but it's kind of really handy when you're doing these 90-degree pocket hole screws here. See a lot of people using impact drivers to drive pocket hole screws, and that always makes me nervous. I'm using my drill, or I could adjust the clutch on it so I don't blow the screw out the back of the wood there. And here I am attaching one of the braces. I'm going to put 2 on the center leg, and everywhere I'm doing this I'm using glue and pocket hole screws. So okay, so here I am attaching the second brace to the center leg, and now is where I realized I made a mistake. So these are not right triangles. They're different sizes on each side. So basically what I did was drilled the pocket hole screws on the wrong side. So I needed to think through that a little bit better when I drilled those pocket hole screws. If I would have made them a right triangle, it would have been fine. But I made one side a little bit longer and one side a little bit shorter by design. But by doing so, I kind of screwed up those pocket hole screws. But since it's just going in my living room, it's not a big deal. I just re-drilled the pocket hole screws on the other side, and it's good to go. If this is for a different, like a customer, I would have probably just cut a different piece. Even though you wouldn't see this, I wouldn't want to have a mistake on there. But since it's mine and you're never going to see it, it's no big deal. So I've fixed those pocket hole screws, and now I'm getting everything clamped and glued up here. When I'm screwing into the oak, I'm using the fine threaded screws, and when you're screwing into the plywood, I've got coarse threaded screws that I'm using. So I've got 2 different sets of screws I'm using for this, but it's a good strong hold that way. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish getting my braces installed and glued up and everything like that, and let this thing dry. Alright, so I'm using Rubio Monocoat for this. I really like the finish. It turns out really great in the end. This is a chocolate colored Rubio that I'm using. Matches our furniture really well, I think, with this type of wood. So if you've never used Rubio before, it's a two-parter. It's a hard wax oil, so you get the oil and then a hardener, and it's a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 parts oil to 1 part hardener. I'm using this little paper, like 3-ounce cup or something like that, that you use in your bathroom or whatever. And then I've got these little medicinal syringes that I picked up on Amazon for pretty cheap, for a box of 100 of them or something like that. Same thing like your younger kids when they're taking liquid medicine or something like that, they get at the pharmacy, whatever. Just makes measuring really easy. So it does not take a lot when you use this. There is a way to calculate how much you need. When you have a bigger surface area to cover, it's helpful to know the coverage, and so you can kind of calculate how much to mix up. Because I mean, if you get a bigger can of this, I mean, it's $50-$60 for a can, where you go to Lowe's and get a can of stain that's like $20 or something like that. This is a little bit more expensive, so it kind of helps to know how much coverage that you're gonna need, so you make up the right amount. For me here, I don't need a lot. I'm mixing up a really small amount to start off with. I ended up mixing another batch, like 3 times the size as my initial batch here. I made a really small batch to begin with. When I'm mixing this, I use one syringe for the oil and another syringe for the hardener. That way I'm not mixing the two up or anything like that. So that's why you see me using 2 syringes here. And then once you get the 2 parts mixed in there, I usually kind of stir it up with either whatever I got laying around, a screw or something like that, just to get it mixed up. You want to stir it up pretty good. All right, so I've got my Rubio all mixed up, and what I'm using here is just a white Scotch-Brite pad to apply it and buff it into the wood. Since I don't have a huge area, it's pretty quick and simple to put this on there. I was really kind of surprised at how much this wood soaked this up. I did a quilt rack for my mom for Christmas, and it was made out of cherry, and I really didn't use much at all on that, but this really sucked it up. This red oak did, so I was kind of surprised a little bit. But so really all you do is just kind of buff it in with the Scotch-Brite pad and let it sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes max, and then just wipe it off and you're done. That's why Rubio is so nice to work with. You don't have to worry about getting dust in it. Once you wipe everything off, it's just dry for the most part. It's not really dry until it's been sitting for 24 hours, I believe. And then it's not fully cured for another 7 days, but it's just a neat product, and it's just amazing to me. Like, it makes the wood feel really smooth. I'm not sanding this to like 220 or any higher than that. I'm stopping at 180, and just makes the wood feel really good, look really good. It's got a nice satin finish on it. It's nothing. I don't like a really shiny, like a really shiny bright sheen or anything like that. It's got a nice satin look to it, so I just really like it. It's good. It's a good finish. Alright, so I knocked the bottom out, and I went ahead and flipped it over and started finishing the top. Just the same way I did the bottom, and I got the side leg done and everything like that, and the edges. Just kept buffing this out, and I did, not too big of a section at once. If you let it sit there, it does get a little gummy. So you want to make sure you can get it all buffed in and wiped off within 5-10 minutes. So it just doesn't start to gum up. And it was cold in my shop, so it kind of got gummy pretty quick. So I didn't want to take a lot of time, so I tried to hurry through this and get it done, and it turned out really nice. I'm real happy with it. Here you see where I dropped in the power strip and got this screwed in, and that turned out perfect, and everything's looking good. Alright, here's the finished product installed behind the couch, and looks good. The wife is happy, I'm happy, and matches our other furniture really nice, and looks great. So if you like what you're seeing, hit that like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for our next video. I'm going to be learning how to turn wood for the first time on a lathe, so that should be fun. So don't want to miss that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Let's go make something.